Commander, the stakes have risen. One of our operatives, codenamed Delphi, stopped transmitting just as he was about to reveal the location of Kane's research center. He's experimenting with Tiberium, injecting the stuff into human guinea pigs. Delphi also has routes and times of the top secret convoy Kane's taken to Bosnia. Once you've landed on this beach and fought your way through Nod security, find Delphi and, if Kane hasn't killed him, get his information. Over and out.
What is up, everyone? And it is Lovenji here, and welcome back to Command & Conquer. We are plowing through these GDI levels right now, and this level requires you to be a bit quick at the start and run away with your MCV. You'll get kited by that light tank, and sometimes it can go horribly wrong, but by and large, just have your grenadiers focus it and run your MCV.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Moving out. Affirmative.
So, as well as 3 turrets watching the coast, there is also a flame tank. So that's really what sends you the big warning sign that says don't go this way, is that there is a flame tank. So, largely this mission is going to start off the same way as just about every single other one that we do, in that we've got to build a base. And this is what I was saying to people as well. At the start of the levels, start the campaign, I was saying the levels will go by really quickly. Then you have this base building phase in each level that, well, you have to build a base. You just have to. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be establishing our standard 2 refineries. And with 6 grenadiers, we will be able to defend the base for maybe 5 seconds. As you can see, enemy infantry is getting smarter. It's now starting to try to scatter and evade being crushed, which is a common feature. But you can use grenadiers to hunt down rocket soldiers. They're generally very good against them. So, both refineries down. We're going to build a barracks because we're going to need towers to hold our line. The GDI guard tower, whilst making incredibly loud and annoying sounds, is essential to being able to actually hold your base against Nod's increasing waves of flamers. So what we're going to do here is set up a couple of guard towers on the perimeter, and then we can build up our base pretty comfortably. One of the things you're going to want to be doing is getting another orca armada, because whilst the Nod base is heavily defended, Nod is doing this thing where it covers all the Tiberium with gun turrets again. But that can come after the weapons factory. So the weapons factory is going to give us access to our vehicles, it's going to give us our scouting Humvee, and we can start to produce medium tanks. Explore this little village to the south purely because it's got more Tiberium in it. This is meant to signify a village that's actually been completely infested and forced to be abandoned because of Tiberium. So as you can see, Nod come at you full charge with infantry, which is why we built the guard towers. You very quickly lose control of this game if you do not have those guard towers. So this grenadier is going to die. I don't think I've actually addressed that. Infantry units moving over Tiberium actually take damage as they move. So that is a result of the grenadier having a little jog on Tiberium.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir.
So the AI is very good at doing these little drive-by things. It can move and fire with the infantry humanely well. So, if you don't know how low power mode works, not only does low power mode set off your radar, but it also reduces your production by a percentage. That percentage gets higher the more low power that you are. So, if you remember in GDI Mission 2, the first minigunner that we trained was done so at a crawl, and it was because we were completely offline. We had no power whatsoever. Whereas most low power modes you'll see me enter are very marginal and don't slow you down too much. It would matter in a multiplayer game, but not necessarily in a single player game against the AI.
Affirmative. Moving out. Unit moving out. Affirmative. Affirmative.
So this little wall of guard towers is going to make a lot of a noise for us. It's interesting because it's an old game. It's limited by the amount of sounds it can play at any one time.
Yes, sir. Vehicle affirmative. Knowledge. Knowledge.
Construction complete. New construction options. Building.
Affirmative.
Oh, that shot.
Yes,
It
sir.
was a very well placed shot.
Unit lost.
Good. So dealing with the light tanks is difficult at first, but once you get the orcas up, it's pretty straightforward. As you've seen me do in the previous levels, we can just utilize the orcas to take care of any Nod aggression. GDI is really well placed in that they are set up to deal with Nod's infantry aggression very well, and their orcas allow them to deal with vehicular aggression equally as well.
Construction complete.
Orcas become a mandatory sort of response as a base defense once the Nods start using flame tanks. Flame tanks are incredibly resistant to structure damage. It's kind of an attribute of theirs, and they're used to actually clear out GDI structures. Speak of the devil,
Building.
Nod is sending its first of many flame tanks.
Acknowledge.
Construction complete.
And you can see it only got a few blasts off, but almost destroyed that guard tower. And that's kind of what you'll see me use Nod flame tanks for in Nod levels during the Nod campaign. Now, canonically, as I've said sort of at the start of the campaign, but it's worth repeating, the GDI campaign is to be done first, and then the Nod campaign done second, with the GDI campaign, well, both campaigns are sort of canonical, but the GDI campaign more so,
Unit
Our base is under attack.
in that GDI win Europe and therefore gain control of the world, essentially, and can start to set themselves up as the global superpower that they become in Tiberium Sun.
Building.
Nod, meanwhile, secures the Africa areas and the, to use CNC3 terminology, the yellow zones, to form its own sort of foothold, for lack of a better word. So now we're just going to start clearing out gun turrets. Now that we've got the 3 orcas, it's important that you do clear these out because these are actually protecting additional patches of Tiberium. Your starting Tiberium is only going to last you so long, and once that runs out, you really need to be thinking about where you're going to go next. And that's how a lot of people actually fail this level. It's either in not being prepared for that early Nod aggression, or having an insufficient response
Construction complete.
to the low amount of Tiberium that's near you.
Yes, sir.
So you can see I can just about select that turret. So I'm going to do so. Orcas reload pretty quickly, so you can be doing these little raids with them quite often. And it takes a matter of mere moments to actually clear out all the Nod presence.
Construction complete.
Second Humvee, we used him to clear out some of the ambushing rocket soldiers, but actually now he's serving
Construction
as a
complete.
scouting Humvee.
Yes, sir. Moving out. Knowledge.
There's the flame tank that I mentioned at the start of the level.
Knowledge. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Yes, sir. Knowledge.
So all we have to do now is just hold this attack. We can hold this attack, we're in a pretty comfortable position.
Yes, sir. Knowledge.
We're going to take a lot of damage because unfortunately I provoked a flame tank at the exact same time. but not critical damage. This is not damage that we cannot deal with or recover from, as you can see.
Construction complete.
Orcas are really good, so long as you keep them hotkeyed and keep them in the air.
Cancel. Building on hold.
I'm pretty bad about managing my orcas most of the time,
Construction complete.
but when it comes to defending my base, you can bet your backside that my orcas will be there very quickly to pick off Nod vehicles, particularly the flame tanks.
Moving out. Moving out.
So my limited strategic knowledge when I was a kid, I always used to thought you were meant to
Moving out. Moving out.
build in that little alcove that's protected by the flame tank. And I used to get so angry because I used to be like, how are you meant to get there with 6 grenadiers? It's 3 gun turrets and a flame tank. How are 6 grenadiers meant to get you there? And I couldn't figure out any way of doing it.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
And then my dad just told me that you can go down the eastern road.
Moving out.
Unit lost.
Unit moving out.
So I was a touch aggressive there, went too close to the Nod base.
Construction complete.
Lost an orca for it.
Building. Construction complete. Building. Building.
But as you can see, we're building quite a tightly packed base again. This is not the first time that we have done this.
Construction complete.
Affirmative.
Building. Unit lost. Our base is under attack. Building.
So, what I should
On
have
hold.
done is build
Cancel.
an additional
On
harvester,
hold. Building.
but I did not. And the reason we should have got extra harvesters is for the same reason that I've talked about in just about every level before this one.
Construction complete. Building.
You can really be running multiple harvesters per refinery,
Unit lost. Unable to
and at this
comply.
point I'm now
Unit
just
lost.
suiciding orcas against the SAM sites, which is inefficient, and well, you don't need me to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Don't do that.
Moving out.
Doing that is considered bad.
Moving out. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Moving out. Moving out. Affirmative.
So all we're going to do is scout out what remains. The objective of this mission is actually just to find Agent Delphi and get him extracted. What that means is a Chinook will pick him up and lift him from the level, assuming it is safe to do so.
Moving out. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Yes, affirmative.
Unit lost.
Awaiting orders.
So many Humvees have been lost to flame tanks. So, not much changes about how we're going to play out this mission until our base is fully established. Once our base is fully established, we'll build medium tanks and we'll start to push in. But the notable feature of this level is that you don't actually have to kill Nod. As I said, we only have to find Agent Delphi and get him out safely.
Moving out.
The unit Agent Delphi is just a technician, so despite having a really cool name like Agent Delphi,
Moving out.
he's useless to us and will die so quickly if you actually try to use him. Fortunately, Westwood thought of that and they put him in a place where you can't actually move him into danger.
Vehicle reporting.
He's in the northeast of the map, stood by a church. So we are just going to harass Nod harvesters, knowing that they have to leave the base. And this is
Construction complete.
generally a good way to win 90% of the levels. Nod will have to leave its base to farm on almost every level, and you can just chase it down.
Building. Cancel.
Unit reporting.
Building.
So we're at that point now where we can start to think about building tanks. Really, I should have built harvesters and then tanks so that my income was more steady, but you don't need me to say that 1,000 times. As you can see, the northwest of the level is just scoutable near Nod base
Building.
stuff.
Building. Building.
But what we're going to do now is we're going to get some more attacks out of Nod. We're going to replace our final orca.
Construction complete.
Awaiting order. Acknowledged.
Our base is under attack.
Yes, sir.
You can do this. It does this thing where if you select units too quickly, you select a structure as if you have selected a unit. It's really quite interesting.
Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
So this flame tank's a bit confused, and because of that, we're just using the orcas to clear up a little bit.
Unit reporting. Yes, sir. Moving out. Moving out. Yes,
This
sir.
flame tank has decided it wants to go for the harvester, so we're gonna let it and destroy it. If it goes for the harvester, it's way out of range of
Construction
the
Yes, acknowledged.
Building.
SAM sites, which means we can
Yes, sir.
take it out without taking any orca damage.
Yes, sir.
Now the Nod harvester has poked its head out,
Yes, sir.
which is good for us. SAM sites have such a good range. And our one medium tank will clear up those two light tanks that have just been sat there.
Affirmative. Waiting affirmative. Acknowledged. Moving out. Affirmative.
So what you can do with medium tanks on this level, and it's one of the reasons why we're building medium tanks, is you can actually sit on our side of the mountain and shoot up with the medium tanks and destroy a lot of Nod's anti-air just through exposure to medium tank fire. You can make flamers shoot their own men by moving near them
Building.
as their target. So yeah, I've realised that Nod just likes throwing units at the
Construction complete.
one part of my base that didn't have a guard tower. So we're just going to turn it into the part of my base that has a guard tower.
Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
Unfortunately, the range on SAM sites is absurd.
Unit report. Moving out.
So we do lose orcas just through using them to try and harass harvesters.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving out. Affirmative. Moving out.
But we can, as you can see, take pot shots at these SAM sites, and Nod will try to repair them, which in its own way is good, because what we're actually doing is eating through more of the Nod funds. The AI is constrained by money. It does
Construction complete.
have to spend and earn money, so it's not a cheater in the sense that it has an unlimited source and just keeps building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving out.
Something that they changed for Red Alert, in fact.
Moving out.
In Red Alert, the AI will continue to build even if it has no source of income.
Moving out. Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
At least for a short while. And on particular levels. But that generally only happens if you play on the hard difficulty. It's kind of one of the things that makes the transition to the hard difficulty is that
Building.
the AI becomes capable of cheating. So we're just whittling down SAM sites because they're exposed and we can force Nod to spend money on repairs this
Building.
way.
Cancelled.
It's not good. It doesn't look good. It's not good. It doesn't look good.
Affirmative. Moving out.
Construction complete.
Yeah, and Nod's just going to keep rebuilding these SAM sites as well, which means we can keep destroying them.
Unit reporting. Acknowledged.
We're getting the orcas into position
Building.
Moving out.
for them to be able to pick off a Nod harvester,
Moving out. Yes,
and with that SAM site dead, they certainly can.
Unable to comply. Building in progress.
So we've almost finished a harvester, and you'll be so proud of me. The amount of times I've said we should have a harvester here, and we now have a harvester.
yes, sir.
So Nod has started to run out of funds, and you can tell purely because they're not rebuilding SAM sites anywhere near as often. And they've just lost their second harvester.
Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
Unfortunately, these tanks decided to pick a fight with a large passing Nod patrol, so it doesn't look good for them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
But hopefully just moving them away from the patrol means they stop getting shot at. And I did it again. Select the harvester too quickly, and the game thinks I have selected a structure to behave as a unit.
Affirmative.
It's cool because you get the little yes sir.
Affirmative.
Building.
Unit reporting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Moving
Unit
out.
lost.
Moving out.
Flamethrowers are so good.
Moving out.
Unless I have to use them.
Moving out.
Building.
So I'm being cheeky, I'm trying to run things over with the tank. Doesn't work, of course.
Construction
And I end up
complete.
getting pretty heavily swept by Nod's
Building.
light forces.
Construction complete.
But Nod is becoming incredibly low on resources.
Construction
And that's what we're doing. We're trying to choke Nod out because their base is quite heavily defended. Once you start strangling them of resources, they'll start selling key structures that we want them to sell. We're going to get them to a point where when we shoot the Obelisk of Light a couple of times, they actually sell it instead of using it to defend their base.
building.
Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
We're doing everything we can just to make sure that no Tiberium loads return to the refinery.
Moving out.
Construction complete.
Moving out.
Building.
Unit moving out. Moving out.
It's time to show you guys the rest of the Nod base.
Yes, sir. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Affirmative.
I won't get to show you very much of it, of course.
Moving out. Acknowledge. Moving out. Moving out. Affirmative. Moving out. Acknowledge.
So you can already see the key thing, and there it is.
Unit.
There is an Obelisk of Light at the front, and that's what we're trying to starve the Nod economy for. We can get to a point where they sell that, they're so out of money that they're prepared to sell their Obelisk of Light. We're in a good position.
Building. Construction complete. Building.
Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting.
Construction complete.
Moving out.
So I'm just sending another 2 tanks over there. And all we can do now is just really, really punish Nod for not having a army to defend its harvesters. Send the orcas in after that harvester, and just start building medium tanks. And that's pretty much all we're going to do.
Construction complete.
Waiting order. Moving out. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
So you may be wondering why we're not getting airstrike. There is one SAM site that is in the way, preventing us getting an airstrike, and it's the one at the north, just by the Obelisk of Light.
Building.
That's put there purely so we can't get an airstrike and destroy the Nod base that way.
Construction complete.
But what we can do is just patiently wait and pick off another harvester.
Building.
Moving out.
Now that harvester's chance of actually returning any money is very, very slim.
Construction
Unit
complete.
acknowledge.
Building.
So because we shot the harvester, instead of attacking it with orcas, we've triggered the AI's response of 1,000,000 units to make us go away. A little bit of moving can make the flamers kill themselves.
Unit lost.
If you hold Alt, it changes the cursor to the force move cursor, and you can force a unit to try and run over another unit. But the problem is when you try to do that with more than one unit,
Construction complete.
your units actually start blocking each other, and only one of them will accept the force move order. Whereas if you move a group of units in the general direction, the AI is not always likely to recognize that you're trying to crush them, or they'll move out of the way of one of your vehicles into the path of another moving vehicle. So I found it's just better to try and move groups of units for crushes than it is to order a specific crush. Against players, this is different. Players don't have a lot less obsessive desire to evade being crushed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we're going to suicide the orcas, but it doesn't end up being suicided because we did the math right on the
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
on the nod base, which means
Yes, sir.
we have finally starved them of cash. They are actually having to sell everything we touch.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Moving out. Acknowledged.
We can start to take out nod structures.
Sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, moving out.
So the rest of the mission is really straightforward. We're going to be pushing in, constantly trying to starve Nod of its resources, and I don't pay attention to the fact that they rebuild the obelisk and I get trapped into the base. But you can watch as these 3 medium tanks get absolutely wrecked by 4 infantry. Absolutely dominated. This is where I made the decision to run away and realised I couldn't. There you go. And there's Delphi.
Construction complete.
Don't put Delphi where I just put him. He blocks the Chinook. He stood there. He's blocking the Chinook.
Building.
Yes, sir.
But either way, this is going to be sort of more or less the end of the level. You can see what we're doing to finish out the level. So I'll be quiet and let you enjoy the level and this song, which is the theme of Nod, by the way.
Waiting orders. Unit report. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit lost. Airstrike ready. Building. Select target. Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Unit report. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out.
Building.
Yes, acknowledged. Yes, yes, sir. Unit
Construction complete.
yes, sir. Acknowledged. Unit, yes, sir. Unit acknowledged.
Reinforcements have arrived. Sideways moving. Building.
Acknowledged. 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 Acknowledged.
Unable to comply. Building in progress. Construction complete. Construction complete.
Moving out. Acknowledged. Moving out. Yes, sir. Yes, affirmative. Unit reporting. Unit reporting.
Yeah, okay.
Unit acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Moving out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mission accomplished.